Hello, everyone. This is Stuart Sadler. I've been a core coach for 2 years, been in the program for 6 years, and just been an unbelievable journey for me. When I started in the core, I was doing like 60 million and thought I was the man and was doing everything wrong. So just what I've learned through the core is not only how to be a better salesperson, but how to be a better leader, how to do it all in 40 hours, and how to really just have a more well-rounded life. And today I wanted to introduce Kevin Rudrud to the call. Kevin was my student 2 semesters ago. And when I knew I had to do this program, they wanted me to interview a student. And the topic is how to crush the greatness tracker and theme days with your calls and how to be consistent. And I don't know anyone that does it better than Kevin. While I coached him, I literally learned as much during my call from him as he did from me. So just super excited to be on the call with you, Kevin. Kind of give us a rundown of who you are and tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much, Stuart. Well, my name is Kevin Rudrud. I run a branch here in California. I also have a business in Hawaii as well. But yeah, I got coached I've been in the core now. I think this is my 6th year, really similar to Stuart. Same story as everybody. Came in thinking, how amazing I was, and really learned quickly how much there is to learn, and have been growing every year, setting records every year, and all, of course, thanks to the core and coaches like Stuart. Stuart coached me, like he said, a couple semesters ago. We had a fantastic time and really had a chance to really, kind of 10x my business, which was awesome to have that happen. And, I have the core to thank, obviously, for that.
And Kevin, what I want to start with is we all thought we were the man in 20 and 21, right? Like record numbers, like 200 mil. I did 560 units for over 200 million in 20, 540 for over 200 million in 2021. So just, I'm the man, right? Like everything I do is working. Guys, we're in a different market right now. And if you're already in the core, you know this. If you're not in the core, we'll talk about it. But I don't think 20 and 21 is something we need to compare anything against anymore. If you're really looking at comparison, we've got to go back and look at 2019. Because the truth of the matter is people were rewarded for bad behavior the last 2 years. Even if you didn't do the work, you still were getting rewarded for it. Well, that's not the case right now. And 2022 is going to be about who is the best grinder that follows the process, that does everything. And it's all about consistency. I know a lot of people that will do really well for a week and really bad for a week. And that's not how you build a proper business. Because I'll be honest with you, Kevin, I want to hear your thoughts. I'm working harder than I probably ever have right now. Like I'm putting in more hours. I'm more involved in my files. I'm making more phone calls. And the biggest thing that the course taught me and what I'm so grateful for is I am doing all of that without getting distracted from what we're going to talk about today. Because I know my business is driven by the greatness tracker and doing my theme days, and they're not an option. You've got to literally be accountable to your schedule, and these have to happen no matter what's going on. So tell me what you're seeing right now.
So I'm seeing the same thing. My 2 words for the year are professionalism and consistency, because I think that over these last couple of years, with the way that the business was and how it was coming in, a lot of us lost these repeatable, actionable habits, right? We would just push a goal and we wouldn't even need the habits to get to the goal. It just kind of happened on its own because the market did it for us. When we have this kind of habits-based system or this structure that the greatness tracker enables, we're able to get to those goals in an environment that's not so easy. I always tell my team, look, in the last 2 years, we were a sailboat and the wind was just pushing us. Now, we're a motorboat. We got oars, we got a motor, we got to make our own way. We're still going to go the same speed, but it's just not going to be the wind pushing us along.
Well, I'm glad to hear you have a motor. I feel like I got a rowboat that's got like a 2,000-pound weight on it that I'm having to row, but I'm grinding it out. And for me, Kevin, what I'm loving is I trust the system so much. I've stayed in a good mental space and business is going exactly as I expected it.
Absolutely.
February is better than January. March is better than February, and leads are coming through the door because I'm consistently doing the work. And before we get into some of the strategies, the other big aha moment I've had is, I hate to admit it, like raving fans, it's Rick's favorite book, but it's my favorite book and we read it every year. And that's how I've grown my business. I know that I was more transactional than relational the last 2 years. And I was almost proud of it. Like I got down to where I was like, I can do a client consultation in 7 minutes. That's not what works in this market. It's got to be more activities and better activities and more value. And that leads me into what I learned from you. And I want you to kind of talk about how you're crushing the greatness tracker in the theme days, how you're using Phone Burner, how you're using Jungo, and kind of let's dig into some strategies that people can walk away from this and implement immediately.
Sure. So the first strategy that I would bring up in relation to having, the 5 theme days, which we'll obviously go through, is making sure that Monday sets the tone for the rest of the week. Like that is, if you mess up Monday, I've found the rest of the week is messed up. If you nail Monday, I've found it's a lot easier to nail the rest of the week. So the first thing you need to have is a really good plan and structure for making sure that Monday, which is of course is Rick's day, right? That's the big call day, that Monday you get all the punches in, even at the expense of other things in your business. You want to make sure that Monday is a terrific call day. Any questions, sir?
Kevin, what I will say on that, and you and I have talked about this, but I think in our business, we really confuse important and urgent. Mm-hmm. And what I mean by that is we make everything seem urgent. And what happens on your Monday, you walk into your office and you got a low appraisal, upset client, something wrong, and you think that's the most urgent thing. So you jump on it. And what that does, it pushes your team meeting, it pushes your call theme days, and it just pushes everything down. And what you said is 100% dead on. If I don't have a good Monday, I have a bad week. It just sets the tone for everything that we need to do. So it's realizing that when an issue happens and we're supposed to be in our call block, take 2 seconds and think about, is it urgent or is it important?
Yep.
If I had an appraisal come in low, it's super important. Well, if my appraisal contingency is not up until end of day or the next day or further out, it's not urgent. I can still do what drives my business. I can get to that in the afternoon and still be able to handle any issues and do my job.
Exactly. And I was just telling one of my LOs this morning, a task will expand to the amount of time that you allot to it. So, all you're doing is increasing the time to go after the appraisal issue in your example and decreasing the time to chase new leads. So super important. Number 1 tip is Monday is holy and get the calls done. So
well, let's talk about how you do that.
Yep.
Because again, I think it really comes down to being obedient to your calendar.
Yep.
If you set your calendar up properly, it's not optional. That is your job. You can't move it. You've got to get in there and do the work. But again, last piece where I'll let you jump in. I've had times where I check the boxes, right? The greatness tracker, there's 2 greatness trackers. There's one that's all the way complete and you built relationships. And there's one all the way complete that you rushed through your calls. You didn't have good conversations. You were just checking the boxes. In this market, we've got to do both. It's about a lot of activities, but they've got to add value.
Yep. And I believe I need about 35% more leads this year to do the same business that I did last year. That's just how my conversions work in my branch. In order to do that, we ran the math. I need about 160 agent relationships. Of those 160 agent relationships, I want to be in touch with, Rick says for level 3s that we want to make sure that we're calling 40 realtors a day. That's one of the backbones of the core. You have to call 40 realtors, on Monday. You got to call 40 realtors on Monday. I think, the core has a lot of things that we're recommended to do. Some people go over them. It's typically fine, if we go over them, so on Mondays, I'm personally shooting to do 100 realtor calls to make sure that I'm, really knocking that out. But the standard for a great core student is still 40, right?
And it is, and that's just the minimum. You can always do more, and just making sure you get 40. But I agree. I learned a lot of this from you, but I call 80 realtors every Monday because I am the same spot. I've always been super excited. Like my conversion ratio has consistently been between 40 and 41% the last 5 years. It's not going to be there this year. It's going to be, I don't even know, 25, 27, if I'm guessing, based on the way inventory is going. So it doesn't take a mathematician to figure out if I want to do the same amount of business, I've got to have more opportunities right now.
Exactly. And the first thing that people say to me, even core level 3s, is, well, how, calling 100 realtors on Monday is going to take all Monday. It's super hard. You have to be very organized, or how are you doing it? And there's tons of questions on it. So I think one of the big things that I think you invited me on this call is to explain exactly how I'm able to get that done and still not work, 18 hours on a Monday. So if I had to break it down into a couple of, easy to digest pieces, the first thing I would say is, and this is not a list calls take forever, right? But, and a lot of people have questions on that, but you need to have an organized list, right, of the people that you're going to call ahead of time. And it needs to be in some kind of Excel spreadsheet with their first name, last name, phone number, and their email address. However you want to do that. There's a million complicated ways, a million easy ways. However you want to do it, you have to have them organized. And from there, you need to take that list and get that list into a piece of software called Phone Burner. And the Corps recommends we all have Phone Burner. They want us to be as efficient as possible with our calls. So the number one thing I recommend to do is to get everything into Phone Burner, learn as much as you can about Phone Burner, and make sure your list is dialed in and in Phone Burner, because when you have it working, that's what enables you to be able to do these calls in a method that is very rhythmic and eliminates a lot of the dialing and paper finding and all that stuff that's really hard for us as salespeople that causes us to fail, because it's not that we don't love making the calls. A lot of us are great at the conversations. Sometimes it's just all of the extra stuff around it.
And let me be clear, Kevin, this is like, you're like a ninja at this, but like everyone on this call that's listening to this, you don't have to have Phone Burner. I made my 40 dials off of Excel forever. I stayed focused. I made sure I checked them out. The Phone Burner and any technology we discuss doesn't replace the basics that have to be done. And you've got to do them no matter what it takes or how you want to do it. I've just found there's some efficiencies to using it. But in case people don't know, Phone Burner is just a dialing system that Kevin's figured out how to utilize exceptionally well with calls, with emails, with videos. But I don't want that to ever take away from the benefit and the quality of the conversation. Because I think when people hear Phone Burner and dialer, they immediately think of something that's not as relational, more transactional. You're just ripping through it. And that's not how we use it. It is something that we use. And the first tip I'll put out there, if you've ever seen it, the first time I used Phone Burner, I got rid of it because the default setting is called power dial. And what that means, as soon as I hang up with Kevin, it calls the next person. And it's just too fast paced for me to have quality conversations. Once you get it set up, and I've got a whole other video that we can share with you guys on this that I learned from Kevin, but there's a pause and dial feature that allows you to wait, bring up the next record, think about what you want to talk about, and have a really good conversation. It just makes you able to call a few more people faster. But I don't want people to think they have to have Phone Burner to do the core theme days, top 40. They don't. I've just found that it helps.
One thing I'd add to that is, if you back up one step, a lot of people think you need a really elaborate CRM, right, in order to have the lists in it. That's a similar idea as needing, like I did 50 calls a week with exactly what you had, an Excel spreadsheet and a dial phone. And what I always say is, until you can make a case, a comprehensive case for why you need a complicated CRM or why you need a dialing software, then you probably don't need one.
Correct. And I needed it because I made my top 40 regardless. I just wanted to be efficient and be able to call more and not have to have more time added to my calendar.
Exactly. So that's what I can't get to 100 calls without it, but I can certainly get to 40, which is the level 3 standard, which is the top 500 loan officers in America.
Yep. So Kevin, we kind of jumped over it and I want to take us back. So we're talking about Phone Burner, we're talking about the top 40, but I think all of this makes more sense. And again, I always give Oleg credit for this because it's the first time I'd ever seen it. And then I did like a lot of students. Oleg, I can't remember how long ago it was, 4 or 5 years ago, he did it on stage. And I thought it was the coolest thing ever. I wrote it down and never did anything with it. Well, guys, the reason Kevin's so good at what he did, he heard it and actually implemented it. So talk to me about the account executive strategy, because I think one of the biggest reasons of call reluctance is what to say. Like if you really get dialed into your top 40 and you're doing it, like the first roadblock you hit is, I've called this person, I've had the same conversation. What do I say? Like how many times can we really say, hey, Kevin, how was your weekend? Did you work or play? Like I've done it and I'll continue to do it if I can't come up with a better conversation because I know it's about the activities. But I want every activity we do in this new market to provide more value. And that's where the account executive strategy kicks in.
That's the word, right? So when we're making these calls, the number one thing that causes call reluctance or causes us not to want to dial is not feeling of value. No one wants to be a beggar. No one wants to show up and ask for, stuff and not give anything return. So the number one thing we want to do is have value, right? So it's a really hard question that we've been trying to answer for a really, really long time, but Oleg answered it about 4 years ago. And, I kind of took it and ran with it. And basically what the account executive strategy is imagining more that we are business people, which is what we are. And I always frame it as being the lender department of a realtor's business, right? And we are reporting back to our leader and telling them what's been going on with their files. So if you take a look at the way to think of the account executive strategy, and if you look me up and email me, I'll send you or the core or whatever, I'll send you a document that looks like this, but I'll explain it. You draw a line down a piece of paper and make a plus.
Hey, if you're on this call and you have pen and paper, actually do this if you have never seen this before. So what Kevin's going to describe, actually write it out.
Yep, draw a plus, right down the middle of a big piece of paper. On the left-hand side, you want to stay at the left-hand side. The money's made on the left-hand side. Everything good is on the left-hand side. The first thing you want to write is leads up in the first box. And then on the second box, you want to write pre-approvals. And what that means is when you're making the calls, you look at the box and you see those two things, and that's where you want to go. Now, the first one is leads. So the realtor picks up, say, hey, Stuart, so glad you picked up today. Just wanted to give you a quick update on the Johnson file. We're still waiting on the 1040 transcripts. We're not able to issue that letter just yet. Do you need a pre-qualification letter on this one? Or maybe is it okay if we wait? You're just being of service, right? And or you can ask them, hey, I don't have an email on this. Can you get me the email? Or hey, we've called them 8 times. We haven't gotten to them yet. Can you help me out? Can you make the call for me so we can get on it together? Because we're trying to work these leads. We're trying to get them to pre-approval stage. You're giving them the value of working with their lead, right? And showing them that you are on their team, that you are involved, you are personally helping with their leads. And that is something of value that you can share every week because the leads change, right? Same with pre-approvals. You're calling on the pre-approval letter. Hey, do you need any updates made to the pre-approval letter? Do we need to tighten these contingencies? Hey, just so you know, they're not going to get the money from the trust for another 6 weeks. So you can't make offers until 2 weeks from now. I want to make sure you're clear on exactly what we talked about with this buyer. Like, hey, I'm adding a co-signer. We might be doing $100K higher purchase price. Right now we're at 400. Next week, though, if they can hold on, you're at 525. So just all of those details that they need to know that get dropped by all your competitors. Your competitors take a lead, call once, and don't do anything. Your competitors write a pre-approval letter and wait for the realtor to call them, and with the details.
Kevin, let's be honest, full transparency. Like when I was super busy, I would let them know, I would thank them for the lead, and then there would be probably a couple of weeks that I wasn't calling and updating them on it because I got away from that habit, right? And Kevin, when's the last time you called someone to update them on a lead or pre-approval and they didn't want to talk to you?
Yeah,
like,
never,
is that a valuable
never.
call? Is that a valuable call to the realtor on a call to how to make them more money?
Every time, every Monday, you can call them every Monday for 20 years and talk to them about what they're trying to do in their business. It's always a welcome call, and then once we've given that lead and given that value, given that information, that's when I typically roll into, programming them, meaning, hey, on this loan, we were able to qualify the client for an additional 100,000. If you've got any other clients who think that they're pre-approved at too low of an amount, I'm happy to take a look at those for you and keep updating you on them every step of the way.
It's almost like the evidence of success on your calls, right? Like we do evidence of success on, hey, here's a cool program I did, and it goes out and they might read it in the mail. This is fitting these into our conversations. Also, everybody think about this right now. Like I am calling on that nonstop. How many agents are out showing clients right now when they're not fully pre-approved? I don't know about your market, but you make an offer without a pre-approval letter in my market, they're going to laugh at you. Like it's not valuable. So I'm really talking to the agents every week right now. Like I'll call and say, hey, Kevin, please tell me you don't have Mary in the car yet. Because she is dragging her feet on those last 2 W-2s. I'm ready to get her pre-approved, but I want to make sure she gets me that before you spend any time showing her properties.
Yeah, she might not have filed her taxes yet or whatever, right? So just making sure that we're really providing that value. So it's provide the value, then we program them. And then sometimes if after the program is going good, I'll ask for a lead. at that point, right? If not, sometimes I don't, but if I'm feeling great, hey, Stuart, who else can we give this fantastic service to?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And especially on that lead, I've had to call 7 times. I'm like, Kevin, took me 7 conversations, but just did a full application. They're uploading documents right now. I'll have you another pre-approved buyer in the next 24 hours. Mm-hmm. Who else haven't you been able to get in touch with? What other leads do you have that we can call and try to make into a deal for you?
Exactly. And same with pre-approval. So now I can hear everybody on the call that's watching right now asking the same question. What if we don't have any leads or pre-approvals? What are we supposed to talk about then, right? That's what's going to go on the right side of the column, right? So the right side of the column, you're going to put in the top right-hand corner, go to conversation. And then in the bottom column, you're going to put invite them to something, okay? So these are your 2 go-tos, but it's the same go-to conversation for every single person that day, so that you don't have to make the battlefield decisions. What am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? Because that's where the anxiety comes from on these Monday calls.
And guys, let me share some lessons learned with you. So Kevin taught this to me. I was pretty consistent. So what I've learned from my go-to conversation, and it's a big part of my business right now, because whether it's a new loan program, how to win an offer in this market, there's 1,000 things we can talk about. But when we talk about our calendar, this has to be planned out before you come in Monday morning. I don't care if you stay late on Friday, or I personally get up Sunday morning before my family gets up. My schedule now, I do about an hour to come up with my go-to conversation. I made the mistake 2 weeks ago. I had a general idea what I wanted to talk about, but I didn't feel like doing it Sunday. And I walked in Monday and tried to do that on the fly. I missed the first half of my call block because I wasn't prepared. And what you mentioned, Kevin, that's a real thing, is I had anxiety about it because it felt rushed and I'm trying to hurry up and get it in, and then I'm doing the calls. When I'm prepared and know what I'm going to talk about and I've had time to really think through it, I just have better conversations rather than just rushing through it on the fly.
Yeah, great lenders don't want to be chumps that beg for business. We want to be people that update on leads, update on pre-approvals, help our realtor partners realize a bigger future, and provide them with valuable information. And when we're not able to do that, and when we feel like we're just kind of like not being that high level, we get anxiety and we don't want to make calls.
Kevin, let me tell you another thing that I just added in. So the go-to conversation I come up with, I do like them. Some of them are great. Some weeks it's a good conversation, but I couldn't think of anything great. But I've been putting those into my listing agent calls as well. Getting to know the listing agent. And I'm like, hey, by the way, I have something else I want to share with you that I think will help any of your other buyers. And it's just providing value on those calls as well.
Totally agree. And so what are examples of go-to conversations, right? So it could be a program, it could be an evidence of success, it can be a sales tip. Right now, my last 4 weeks of go-to conversation are all the different things. I actually took it from Stuart, made an email marketing piece where he was the 4 things that a lender should be doing for the realtor to help the buyer get into escrow, things like bridge loans and those types of things. So things like that, ways you can help the real estate agent to win. So just anything that's interesting and relevant can be a go-to conversation. And then obviously that 4th column, invite them to something. All of us should be having at least one event a month, or if you're in the core, a couple, and then that's that week's go-to conversation. Hey, Stuart, just want to talk, let you know I'm having a happy hour here. I'm having a lunch and learn on Zoom or at a place, however that goes.
And hey, everyone, this is not going to be in detail on Phone Burner because I want to cover a lot of stuff, but just to mention, Phone Burner, one of the biggest benefits for me is you leave a voicemail, but it's got it set up now. So after the voicemail, you can drop an email that has a video in it as well. And it's huge right now, because if I'm calling someone that I know, they're probably going to call me back. When I'm chasing those agents that don't know me, I think I'm a great salesman. I have not come up with a voicemail that gets a consistent call back. I've tried. So the email follow-up with value added go-to, and that's what I'm using, right? Because these people I'm chasing, I don't have leads, I don't have pre-approvals. I might invite them to something, but I'm trying to spark something that's going to help their business right now. And that extra piece is another touch that we're getting great responses to. But Kevin, we crush Monday, right? So you're calling 100 agents, you've got it set up in Phone Burner, your leads, your pre-approvals, your go-to, your invite, like you're ready to go. So that day for you, there's no thought. It's just do the work and have great contacts. Exactly. So we roll into Tuesday. How do you handle your pipeline calls?
Great. So Tuesday is today. You see me rushing off my desk. So nothing fancy on Tuesdays. I do not use phone burner. I do not use the CRM. I do very, we have forms that are delivered to me in the morning about my Tuesday update calls. I go through them in my time block right after our daily team meeting. I call buyer's agent. I call listing agent. I call buyer. I think you and I both had a problem of making these calls like we were LP1s, like we were assistants. We were just giving updates and trying to be of service. One thing to remember is, yes, it's important to do the update in the service, but that's going out via email. That is getting taken care of, sometimes, by our team. But we want to make sure that we're remembering that the Tuesday update call is a sales call, and it's all about capturing the listing agent.
Everybody listen to that. Kevin and I had this conversation in detail, and when I got busy and when I talk about checking the boxes on my greatness tracker, I became an LP1 for a period of time. Hey, Kevin, just wanted to let you know everything's on track for closing. The appraisal's due on Thursday. There's no issues. We'll close on time. Thank you. Like, that's not the purpose. Is to, the easiest way to build rapport, right? What's the easiest way to build rapport, Kevin?
Small cap promises.
Small cap promises. So when you call them, you're going to tell them you're going to call them every Tuesday, and you do. Then you went up the ladder, right? You went up the relationship scale with them. But you've got to have better conversations, ask more questions, and really try to have a sales call. I think the purpose of every listing agent call, and a challenge for everyone, is you've got to meet them face to face before closing. Because what's going to happen is if you wait and try to do it after closing, they've moved on. They're not tied to you on the transaction. So if you want to grow your business, one strategy that I've done forever, meet with them prior to closing, whatever it takes. Because at that point on the listing agent, everybody talks to them about rates, and I close fast. Like, we can drop some stuff, but we got to sell a face-to-face appointment and get in front of them before closing.
100% agree. So that's what I'm trying to do there. It takes me anywhere between an hour and a half is the block on Tuesday. For extra credit, I think you could probably make about 20 extra agent calls to agents, cold agents or whale calls on Tuesdays. But in general, it's all about the Tuesday update.
All right, let's move to pre-app day on Wednesday. What are you doing?
Yep. So Wednesdays is pre-apps. It depends on how many pre-apps you've got. Obviously I have more than 100 in the box at any time. Sturdy probably have a couple hundred. I keep mine organized through my CRM, but you could keep them organized through the Cores tools and through.
I use Excel. I have a shared Microsoft 365. I can sort by agent. I can sort by whatever I want to. I have 3 screens. It's up on my screen. And I'll be honest, Kevin, I like Monday and Tuesday. I've got to where I love pre-app.
100%. Yeah. They're a little grouchy right now, but with the lack of inventory, the buyers are a little frustrated, but it's definitely a chance to be of great service.
It is. And again, complete transparency. The last 2 years, my main calls on pre-apps was just trying to get someone my team didn't connect with, or someone that hadn't sent me docs. I was trying to get them to full pre-approval status, because my 41% conversion ratio in old markets, if I did my consultation, I got a pre-approval, they were my client. Mm-hmm. It's not the case right now. I've lost several pre-approved clients this year because people are so scared and so nervous. And if you're not in front of your pre-approvals like a hawk right now, you're going to lose them, because the buyers are so scared of having a higher rate or missing a property. If they think they can close one day faster or get $50 off, if you're not in relationship with them and you're just a set of numbers and you didn't stay in front of them, you're going to lose those clients right now.
I totally agree. And, a lot of people right now, I think, are very fancy with their pre-approval follow-up. Mine is the old-fashioned way, calls. I call every pre-approval every Wednesday, all of them. It's a whole block. I call every single one. The way I get away with it, without being annoying. I never want to be annoying, right? At pre-approval at the meeting, at the pre-approval meeting when we're doing the loan consultation, I'll tell all of them, say, look, I call my pre-approvals every Wednesday, so for sure you're going to get a call from me every Wednesday. If you're just getting out of your car and it's raining and your briefcase is over your head and you dropped your cell phone in the gutter and you see it's me calling and it's a really bad moment, it's okay. You don't have to pick up. I'm just calling to be of value. I'm trying to make sure that you're getting the service that I promised you. But if you do need to chat about anything, what the fees are, where interest rates are at, you're moving here, you're moving there, whatever it is, Wednesday, for sure you will hear from me. Obviously you can call my team at any other point, but for sure I'm going to give you a call on Wednesday. And then that way I've got their permission and they know they don't have to pick up if they're in a situation where they don't want to talk on the phone, but usually they do. It's very helpful for conversion. And I think, and then I drop them. The question everybody always asks is, if you call everybody, when do you drop them off your list? At 90 days. So for me, I found that, outside of 90 days after the letter's been written, we start to get into, a different form of following up. But for sure, in that first 90 days, every Wednesday.
That's perfect. And I don't want to run out of time. So let's talk about your database calls on Thursday, because you had a really good system for that as well.
Yeah, database calls on Thursdays, really easy. I just look at all the loans that I closed this time last year, right? So right now we're in March. I'm calling, I think we closed about 30 loans last March. I'm calling all those 30 people, asking them, most of them obviously have rates at 2.5. But I'm talking to them about, debt consolidation if they need it. Most of them don't. I'm talking about their family. I'm talking about VRBOs. Basically, I'm just program selling based on whatever, makes sense at the current moment.
And it's huge, right? And then you're going back year after year, right? So this week you'll call the loans that closed in 2021. And then the next week you're going to call the ones that closed in 2020. And everyone write this down. What I realized is I was in relationship from my clients from lead to close, and then I marketed to them because I wasn't consistently doing the calls before the core. And if all we're doing is sending them top of mind and postcards and stuff, we become marketers and not relationship people. So this is huge to stay in front of them and to be able to get business from other people other than just agents. What about your VIPs?
My big punchline for the whole thing, like the big message, is that by making the phone call, you earn the right to market to them, and your marketing becomes as effective as you want it to be. Everyone right now is spamming like crazy, and it drives me nuts. When you make that call, you are in relationship. When you don't, you're just a spammer.
And think about how important that is. Like, I probably in my neighborhood get 12 or 15 flyers a week that my wife puts on my desk. I go through them unless I know somebody. And as soon as I was like, I know Kevin, what's he doing now? It makes me, it's because I'm in relationship with that person as opposed to someone I didn't even know. So it's a big difference. Let's end it with VIPs. How are you handling the VIPs on Friday?
So I look at VIP, my way is, and it's Rick likes it too, but it's I call it my own personal BNI. So really what it is for me on VIP calls is, I've got the baker and the candlestick maker and, all the big people in my, I live in a city, so it's very hard for me to be the town lender. What I'm doing is just picking the people in my city that all align with me and what kind of goals I have, and making a BNI around them, supporting their businesses, reaching out to them. Also for VIPs, I am calling like people in my company, people that are important to me personally. That's how I look at VIP. It's really my own personal BNI plus personal circle.
Well, Kevin, thank you. The thing I love the most, I don't care if you've been in the core for 10 years, you've been a coach for 10 years, or you're new. What we're talking about right now is basics. And if you've heard the core, is the two basic building blocks. It's the greatness tracker and the theme days. Guys, they're basic for a reason. It's what works every time. And I think some of us have grown our business too big and have gotten away from the things that made us successful. So I will tell you, every year that I grow, it's not because I do something new and fancy. It's because I go back and do the basics a little bit better and a little bit better, and I grow it from there. If anyone on this call is not involved in the core, please do me a favor. Go to thecoretraining.com, sign up for the free coaching assessment, and just find out about this program, because the core has always been important. Right now, it's super important. There's going to be a lot of companies go out of business this year. There's going to be a lot of changes in our market. And I know for a fact, anybody involved with the core is going to continue to grow their business. And what's going to happen once we get through this storm, if we do this right, and everyone I know is doing it right, we're going to have more relationships and a bigger piece of the pie. So it's just an opportunity to stand out above the competition right now.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, thanks, everyone.